Well, hello and welcome to Conversations with Dr. Els. It is a beautiful day. It is a beautiful day here in uh, the world, and we are on Conversations with Dr. Els. I want to remind you that you can reach someone, let them know Conversations with Dr. Els is on, and invite them to join Conversations with Dr. Els to join this program, all right? Invite them to join the conversation. Let them know Conversations with Dr. Els is on. And I want you to go to the bottom of your screen and share this conversation, all right? Call your family, call your friends, let them know that Conversations with Dr. Els is on. All right. And we are continuing in this conversation to talk about singleness and different aspect of singleness. So hey, get all your single friends, get all your married friends, get your families, and let them know that Conversations with Dr. Els is alive and alive here at I want to remind you that Conversation with Dr. Els is on KLN TV. It's on Caribbean Gospel Jam, and you are free, all right, to share this broadcast. See us on our Facebook page, on KLN TV, on Ellsworth Neil. Join us on any of these platforms, all right, for Conversations with Dr. Els. I want to say good morning to Movita. Good day to you. Uh, it's a beautiful day and great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els. I want to say hi to Avanel. Great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els. All of you who are on Conversations with Dr. Els, we want to say hi to all of you. And again, we want to remind you that you can share this conversation. And not only that, but remember, you can be a part of this conversation, all right? So you don't just, this is not a program where you just, listen, but you can share your comments, you can ask your question. We will engage you in any of your answer your question or engage you with your comments. So hey, again, I want to encourage you to share this conversation with others. Let them know that Conversations with Dr. Els is on. Before we get into our conversation, however, I want to tell you, and in some case, remind you of some great things that's happening. All right, some great things that are happening coming up on in December 6th to 15. We should have a group joining me, and we will be touring the Holy Land, scene where Jesus walked on the water and being on a boat on the Sea of Galilee, the mount where he taught the Beatitudes. We visit Capernaum, where he did his first miracle of turning water into wine. We would visit the St. Peter's, Galatia. We will visit a number of churches where Mary Magdalene was when she met with Jesus, and she, anoint his feet. We would visit the famous Via Dolorosa. That's where Jesus carried the cross, right, to the seven stations where he was tried. We would see the garden tomb. We will just go into the tomb and know that it is empty. And so there are number of places, number of interesting places that you have read in the Bible that you can visit. So if you are interested, just let me know, message me and say, hey, Dr. Els, I want to be on that trip. It is December 6th to 15th, and I'll give you all of the information. So, hey, just take a look at this clip right now where we just show you what is happening there.
And here is your opportunity. Join Reverend Dr. Eric Peters and Reverend Dr. Ellsworth Neal on a trip of a lifetime, a Holy Land classic. See the birthplace of Jesus, Bethlehem, Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives, Nazareth, and many other interesting Bible sites. For more information, contact Dr. Neal at 246-249-0322. Email kltravelcounselors@gmail.com or Dale Lane at 246-822-5651. Don't you miss this.
Okay, so that is our Israel trip. And again, if you are interested in being a part of this, we want to encourage you to message me, let me know that you are interested, and we will help you to be a part of this. But not only that, if you say, well, Dr. Els, this is probably a bit too soon, or you say, I want to do these faith-based tours, so I not only want to go to Israel, but in 2023, God's willing, we will be going to Egypt, during the Red Sea, and walk the road where the Israelites journeyed, Mount Sinai and these places. We will be there. We will go to Athens in Greece, and we will see where Paul stood and debated with those philosophers. We will see a number of the things that we've read in the New Testament, and that is in December 2023. And if you are interested in being a part of that, you can also reach me and say, Dr. Els, I would love to be a part. I would love to be a part of this trip. So here, take a listen. Okay, so then it is a great opportunity for you to see places that you've read in the Bible. Join us. I tell you, we have been on an Israel tour, we've been on an Egypt tour, and we've had some splendid time. There's just so much of a change that we've seen, and brings to light the Bible in such an amazing way. And so I want to encourage you to join me. I want to say hi, good afternoon to Basil. Great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els Kingsley. Great, my brother. Great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els. And so today we are talking about being single and some of the issues that single people face. And just for a quick recap, I want to remind you we started to look at singleness from a wide different perspective. And we want to continue that, and my goal was to bring on persons from different perspective. Some time ago we had a good friend who has been single after the death of a spouse, so we've been dealing with singleness, and we've said that some persons are single because they've decided that they're not going to get married anymore. They're not going to get married, so they want to stay single. Some persons are single and they're looking to get married, but just have not found that partner yet. We also said that there are persons who are single after being divorced. There are persons who are single after the death of a spouse, and we said that there are persons who are married but yet single, and by that we mean there are persons who are married but live their lives as a single person. And so we've dealt with a person who is single, meaning that they have not been married, whether they've decided to stay single or they're looking for someone and have not found someone yet. um, and um, we're looking we dealt with persons who are single after the death of a spouse. All right. And today I want to look at someone who is single after divorce and or separation, because I put these two categories together, right? Divorce and separation, because they generally have the same they generally have the same effect, or they deal with the same issues. All right, so we're looking at it from that perspective, in that the difference between someone who is divorced, who is single from divorce and single from being separated, is that the person who is separated is still legally married, okay, and cannot be married again unless you live in a culture where you can have more than one wife. All right. The person who is divorced uh, is legally separated and can get married again. Let me just pause and say hi to our mentor. Great having you locked on to conversation. Zoe, great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els. All right. So we're dealing with these persons who are single because of either separation or because of divorce. All right. And persons who are single for this reason deal with things differently. And the key for persons who are single after divorce or separation, um, we understand this. Here's a difference, because we dealt last week with the person who is single after losing their spouse. All right, after losing their spouse. When you lose your spouse to death, the emotional pain is expected. All right, and there is a defined grieving process that person go through, that can make their distress understandable, both to themselves and to others. All right, so when a person is single because of the death of a spouse, there is that whole grieving process that they go through, and people tend to understand that a bit more from that perspective. Now, when on the other hand, when a spouse is lost through divorce or separation, many people find themselves in a way that they cannot navigate the roadmap. Right? It's hard. The process. It's hard for them to navigate the process, the roadmap to of singleness after having been married for however long, and then they're now divorced. Now it caused a serious mental stress. All right. So when a spouse is lost through divorce, many people find themselves without that clear roadmap for how to process both the loss itself and the development of a new life. Because we're talking about this person now has lost a partner. All right, they've lost a partner, and not only that, but now they have to deal with living a life of singleness after being married. And what we are seeing in this conversation is that that person deals with things different, or the issues that that person face is different than if the person became single, if the person became single after the death of a spouse. All right. So we want to look at some of the issues that person would face after divorce or after separation. All right. And mind you, for some people, divorce or separation is like a relieving end. They are happy that, hey, I've just got rid of this man, I just got rid of this woman. They may have been in some serious abusive relationship. All right. And because they've been in some serious abusive relationship, they are happy that they are out of that relationship. All right. Because it brings an end to a dissatisfying relationship. Okay. So it brings an end to that relationship. But for others, all right, for others, the disintegration of that relationship and the divorce itself cause deep psychological distress that keeps persons from moving forward. All right. You have that. I've seen an ad that says that marriage is grand and divorce is 20 grand. All right. I saw it, and I love it. It's a marriage is grand, but divorce is 20 grand, meaning that divorce costs a lot. And I've always encouraged persons. I said, I want you, if you have not seen this movie, kind of making an advertisement for this movie. But if you have never seen this movie, I want you to watch this movie. It is called War of the Roses. War of the Roses. And I'm gonna put it in the chat so that you can see it. All right. It's called War of the Roses. And what it shows is that, uh, as we said, the marriage is grand, but divorce is 20 grand. It costs, all right? It costs persons. It costs a lot for divorce, and a lot of headache and such like that. You know, you find a lot of headache in divorce and separation. And so what we are saying is that divorce itself causes deep psychological distress. So the person who is single from being divorced, I think major aspect of their life is that psychological effect that they face. All right. So for some, the common feelings are anger, So you're angry at your spouse. Sometimes you're probably angry at the children, and so, or resentment. You resent your spouse. You resent your partner. So there are feelings of anger. There are feelings of resentment. There's also confusion. So here we see again the difference when someone is divorced because of sorry, when someone is single, all right, because of divorce. And right here, someone is saying there is disappointment. Okay. And I'll deal with disappointment in a bit. But in terms of confusion, you always wonder, why confusion comes with the blame game at time. What could I have done differently? Why did I allow this to happen? What did I do? Am I not good enough for him or her? And so we look at these things, all right? So the person is confused. Wasn't I doing enough? And yet there is disappointment, as was said there in our conversation. The person is disappointed. They may be looking at why did he do that? I mean, I have been so good. In a woman's case, she might say, I have done everything for him, and he still went out and find that other lady and all of that. What am I not doing? Okay, so there is that feeling of disappointment. There's a feeling of resentment, as I said earlier, the feeling of anger, the feeling of confusion. Not only that, but also the feeling of fear. How am I going to go forward? How am I going to go forward in a single life now, having lost my partner, having lost my spouse, having lost my husband or my wife? All right, how am I going forward? How am I going to deal with life? How am I going to survive? Okay, so there is that fear. There's also the aspect of shame. Now, this isn't as much as it used to be before, but I remember at one time when someone was divorced, they were so looked down on that they become afraid, they shame, um, and not only that, but there's that anxiety during and after the divorce, right? After that, there is that anxiety. So what happened? A person who is single because of divorce or separation, right? Someone is saying, I was ashamed, right? And you see, we are not here to say that you must be or you must not be. But that is one of the things that's one of the reality of persons who got divorced, especially if they're Christian, right? And they feel ashamed. They feel that, hey, why this have to happen to me? I am a good person and such like that. So they feel ashamed. And maybe you can share some of the other feelings that you think people may have. Remember, I said this is a conversation that we share in. All right. So you can share some of the other things, some of the other feelings, some of these other psychological things that you believe people go through who are single after being divorced. All right. And so let's get to this. Just say hi to Loveline. Great having you locked on the conversations with Dr. Els. And the comment is, glad you touched this topic. I'm not married, but it confuses me to see divorcees among Christians. And here is the challenge. I would like to ask you the question: why it confuses you? What is the confusion there? Because we're saying that in this conversation, we're dealing with the reality of divorce and the reality that persons who are single after divorce deals with singleness differently than or faces different challenges, I would say, that a person who is single after the death of a spouse, or the person who is single because they decide they're not going to get married. All right. So we have that. And the reality is, if a person is single after being divorced, there are a lot of emotional feelings. Right? We have persons who are single because of this issue. All right, let me just read this comment. I never blame myself. I just think it was a crazy outcome of my situation. I never my marriage was annulled. All right. Okay. Well, an annulment is also well. You face some similar issues in annulment, but annulment is different than divorce. And for those of you know, annulment takes place very early in the marriage, where there might be some for different reasons, right? We're not going to them right now, but for different reasons, we do have that. All right, but as I'm saying, the reality is that person face this situation because they are divorced, and divorce. There is that profound emotional turmoil as a result of that major life transition. And so, what we have, persons who are single because of divorce, what we have people dealing with things like eating disorder. We have persons who deal with substance abuse. And remember, we're not just dealing with this from the Christian context, we're dealing with it from a total world view. All right, and we find that there are persons who deal with that. So someone who is single after divorce, some of the things that they face, along with the emotional aspect, there are persons who oftentimes would say, I don't want to get married again, because they are afraid that they would find themselves in a similar situation. And the fear is not always real. Well, it's not always real, but they say, I've been through this once, I am not going through this again. So the best way to not go through this is not to get married again. So they find themselves by themselves, and they find themselves secluded. They find themselves not dealing with others. All right, so we have that aspect of persons who are single, that they are afraid to move forward. Okay, we have on the other hand, we have persons who are willing to move forward, because you see, someone who's divorced, probably been with their husband or their wife for a long time. It doesn't matter the amount of years, but they've been together, and we talked about that. They've been doing things with a partner together, and so when they divorce, that there's that void that is there. All right, and so some people get themselves, and they rush into a new relationship. They find themselves ready for a new relationship very quickly, and sometimes they have not been able to they have not been able to deal with the emotional scars that they have had from the previous relationship. All right, and so someone said, I am open to being married again. And that is good, that persons are open. But what we are saying, in the situation of being single after divorce, we have to be careful how we thread forward. All right, we have to be careful. But let me just pause and read this comment. Okay, because if God joined one together, how can people who are so connected to Christ turn away from each other? How can they misuse or abuse the one they claim they love? God says the husband should love his wife as Christ loved the church. So if you are truly connected to God, or God join you together, I don't think, or God join you together, sorry, I don't think separation will come in unless your union wasn't start on a solid foundation. Now this comment goes into a lot in terms of causes for divorce and such like that. But when we look at it, it was the Bible says in the Old Testament, Moses granted a divorce because of the hardness of people's heart. Today is no different. People's heart are hard. All right. And we have to understand, we must understand also that while they are Christians, many of us have not given up our all to Christ. All right, there are still issues that we face. There's still issues that we are dealing with. Now, this program, in this conversation, I am not dealing with whether it's right to be right to divorce or not to divorce. We're looking at the reality of the situation. People get divorced, and they get divorced for different reasons. All right. One just out there not willing to forgive. You see, it's just like if I am not willing to forgive you, we are not married, but I have unforgiveness because you've done something to me. We find that in marriage. We find that for so many different reasons why people are divorced. And again, if we have not given our all over to Christ, then there are things in our lives that we'll deal with. I'm going to say here, and this is really not what we're dealing with, but I'm going to share you my opinion. I'm going to be frank with you. I'm going to be open with you. I do not believe that if a person is divorced, that they're going to go to hell. All right, there's some preachers who teach that and such like that. Oh, you're bound for hell or whatever. Just like we sin in different ways. Divorce or separation because of the sin of unforgiveness or whatever the issue is causes persons to divorce, and God is still faithful. God is still love. God is still gracious. All right. And so we understand that. But what we're saying, that for whatever the reason divorce came in, whatever the cause of the divorce, and whether you're Christian or not Christian, when you become single, you have to deal with all of the issues. You have a divorced person. Let's say there's children. There are children in the relationship, then that person will have to deal with that. A single person now has to deal with either the aspect of co-parenting. Okay, they have to deal with the aspect of co-parenting. So and the child or children can become resentful towards either party, whether the father or the mother. We have that issue. We have where there could be a lot, and we see that in movies, and we see that in real life, where when there are children involved, as a single person, you don't have to now deal with just you, but you have to deal with the children's emotion. All right. So the emotion that children would face, if you are single and you've lost your spouse, well, if you're single because you lost your spouse, is different than the emotions they face because of divorce. Children tend to blame themselves, right? Children tend to take side, and you have to, as a single person, walk through the maze of that. As a single person, you have to deal with, again, all the bills and whatever. You know, if you are the person who have to pay out, if you build a life together, you may have properties, assets, and whatever you have to deal with that. um and so not only dealing with your emotional state, but you have to deal with the separation of property, the how you deal with the children, who have custody, and you're there, and there's that mental stress that you deal with. All right. And so for a person who's single, what tend to happen? Persons tend to want to get into a relationship quickly because the load and the stress, and especially we see that from a female in terms of the stress and the load and the children that they have to carry. And so there's some people who are willing to move into a new relationship very quickly because of all of that. There are some who say, I am not going to go through that again. There's an aspect of the emotional side also. And this is kind of similar to if you're single, because you've lost your spouse. So there's that emotional aspect. There's the aspect of you have to be sleeping by yourself. You have to be doing most everything by yourself. You have to deal with children by yourself, and so on, and all of that. You now have to deal with that single. If you, like I said earlier, if you're the person who has to pay out money, or so, you have to find that. And some people will tell you, as they usually say, will take you to the cleaners. All right. So that singleness after divorce is a really trying time. And what we need to do, we need to be able to help those persons. We need to be able to say to them, hey, even if you are single after divorce, you can be okay. All right. You can be okay. And you said to them, hey, stop worrying about being alone. Let me just pause and see. It is a question I wanted to ask. I'm not sure if you have an answer. The Bible gives right away to divorce, but does it give right away to be remarried if your spouse is still alive? And I would probably deal with that. I would deal with that because that would take some exegetical analysis of the Bible, and we probably would do a program on that. But to answer that in a few minutes is not going to be adequate enough. It's not going to be adequate enough. So I will take that into consideration, and we will be able to do a program on that. All right. But for now, as we deal with the persons who are single after divorce, we're saying that you persons, we encourage you, stop worrying about being alone. All right, alone doesn't mean that you're lonely. Find people around you. Something else you can do is to get a hobby or develop your hobby a bit more. All right, find something to do, try new things. Okay. And never say no to plans. Go out and have fun. Start having people over. Start focusing on your job. Do your job a little better. All right. Get on the outdoors, and the reality is you are going to be in the house alone at times. So get accustomed to that. Find yourself doing something. Remember that divorce is not the end of life, and being single is not the end of life. You have to focus. One of the things I would encourage you to do as a single person is focus on what God says about you rather than what your situation is. All right? Rather than what your situation is. Also, I would encourage you, don't compare yourself with others. Don't compare yourself with others because you are different. God has created you different. All right. And so I'm encouraging you. If you are divorced, if you are single after divorce, hey, you have, there is still hope. God is still on the throne. All right. And so we're saying that these issues are real. And as a church, as Christians, as friends, we need to understand. We need to walk with persons who are divorced. Don't blame. Don't play the blame game. Oftentimes what we do is we talk down, we blame, and when we look at the person, hey, a divorced person is not a second class person in the kingdom of God. God loves them as much as he loves you. You know what Paul says? What can separate me from the love of God? Can high depth angels, whatever? And he bring a lot of stuff there. And I want to know that divorce cannot separate you from the love of God. There is nothing that can separate you from the love of God. And so we want to encourage you. If you're single after being divorced, understand the process, understand the emotions, the feelings. Talk to somebody about them. All right. Let someone help you through. But you are not on a road alone. Okay. And so we do have the issues of loneliness. The issue of as we talk about the emotional issues, so we have the sexual issue where okay, now you're human and you have sexual feelings and such like that, and then how do I deal with that after being with my spouse or partner for so long, and then I have to deal with feeling having that sexual feeling and then can't do anything about it with someone else, at least as a Christian, not. All right. And you have that to deal with. And so you have to walk through that. Talk with persons. All right. Let me say hi to Melody Gray Avenue, locked on to conversations with Dr. Els. All right. So talk to person. As a single person, you have to find yourself among others. All right. Find yourself with people. Let them help you and be careful who you find yourself around. You don't want persons who are negative. All right. And most important, know what God says about you. Know who he says you are and live that. So this has been Conversations with Dr. Els. We have been talking about being single, and we talked about being single in the aspect of never being married. We talked about being single after the death of a spouse. Today we're talking about being single after divorce and separation, and we can add in annulment. They walk through around the same issues persons face. And then we want to, God's willing, next week, we want to talk about being married and single. All right. So we're talking about singleness, and you will say, well, Dr. Els, what is that? Being married and single? Yeah, we're talking about being married and single. So if you want to know the issues of being married and single, join me next week, God's willing, Tuesday at 12 noon, and we will continue our conversations on Dr. Els on singleness. Let me just say hi to David. Great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els. All right. There are people who are married but yet single. All right. And we're going to talk about that next week. But if you just if you join us late, I want to let you know that there's some things that is coming up. All right, and you can join us on these. If you're able, you can message me and say, Dr. Els, I want to be a part. So we have our Holy Land tour from December 6th to 15th of this year, and you can join me. You can join me on that. Just let's hear a bit from a tour.
Have you ever dreamed of visiting Israel? Then here is your opportunity. Join Reverend Dr. Eric Peters and Reverend Dr. Ellsworth Neal on a trip of a lifetime, a Holy Land classic. See the birthplace of Jesus, Bethlehem, Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives, Nazareth, and many other interesting Bible sites. For more information, contact Dr. Neal at 246-249-0322. Email kltravelcounselors@gmail.com or Dale Lane at 246 822-5651. Don't you miss this.
All right, and so you can join us. Let me know, say Dr. Els, I want to be a part of that Holy Land tour. All right, and you can join me and my colleague in 2022 December. Or if you say Dr. Els, it's a bit short, and I would love to go on that trip, but I can't make it. You see, next December we are having another faith-based tour, and you can join on that next December. Beautiful, beautiful. So you can join me on that Israel tour, or you can join me on that Egypt, Turkey, and Greece tour. And I'm sure you will have a wonderful time. We've done this and we've had a wonderful time, and we're doing this again so that you can join. So just message and say, hey, Dr. Els, I want to be a part of that tour. I want to be a part of one of those tours that you are having, and I'll let you know how we can get you there. And let me just add this: I can get you there for free. So if you want to know the secret of getting there for free, you can message me and say, Dr. Els, I want to know that secret. All right. So we've been talking about singleness. We will continue this next week. And we thank God for all of you who have joined us today on Conversations with Dr. Els. It's been a wonderful session. It's really great to have all of you on, and I'm looking forward to see you. I'm looking forward to see you next week, God's willing. Remember, invite someone. Let them know Conversations with Dr. Els is on at 12 noon. Remember, no matter what you do today, no matter what you do, we want to encourage you to add value to someone's life. Okay, no matter what you do, add value to someone's life and let them be blessed. God bless you. This has been Conversations with Dr. Els. Until next week. Bye.